The Interceptor is on the hunt. Hey everyone, what's up? Open World Games here, and we have a lot to discuss. We're going to be talking about the recent changes to the loot system in Anthem and how Anthem players are not happy with the rewards they are receiving when they're grinding this game. So that's the big discussion I'm noticing around the community here. So you can see this post here from Bully Hunter 1337, who says loot drop rate nerf. Now he goes on to say the following: the obvious loot nerf glitch has been the straw that broke the camel's back. I have been ignoring the reviews and having fun farming loot in Strongholds with an average of 5 per. Now I have been getting only the guaranteed drop, even though I was mostly scrapping every drop I got because of the very high chance of a garbage roll. They decided to nerf the drop rate, the last thing I was holding on to, and it's gone. So I'm done, but I will be paying attention to this game in the future. I'm sure it will get better. Now, it continued on here. Of course, this was in the patch notes recently. It says chests found in mission changes. It says chests found in missions now have less of a chance to drop higher tiered items. Now, officially, this is the response from Ben Irving of Bioware, who says this: hey, update on what happened here. In our Friday changes, one of the edits we made had the side effect of increasing certain drop chances. This was not intended. Once we had identified the problem, we changed it back to how it was before. That was about 11 hours later. Took a little time for that message to make it around internally and to make sure we understood what happened and how to avoid it going forward. It's never our intent to make changes without being transparent, so we wanted to come in here to respond and clarify. And then he also says, note, we did intentionally change the drop rates of rare items in certain chests per the patch notes we posted, which again, people are not happy by this. Gamers in the Anthem community are not happy. But, you know, I've been receiving still some masterwork items. I receive masterwork items basically every single time I play, and you can see here, this is one of the grenades I got. It's pretty good. It does a lot of damage. Probably one of the best grenades I've received. And then also, my buddy Silver reported to me that we were streaming, and during my stream, which, by the way, check out my streams in the description below. Would love to have you guys join me. But he was receiving legendary drops. Like, he received a legendary grenade. This was his first one here. And then today, he received this legendary Cycle of Pain light machine gun. But at the same time, I had someone else in the chat of my stream telling me that he's been playing for 100 hours plus and has never received a legendary drop. So you gotta wonder why that is. Now, I did ask Silver, does he have any components on his Javelin, on his Ranger, that's increasing his drop rate, rarity, which is a thing you could do with luck. He has, I think, 47% luck increase because of the components he's using. So that could be one way you can increase your rare drop rates, it seems, in Anthem. So yeah, I'm gonna play this out and see what happens, but it seems like overall the community is kind of disapproving of the changes to the drop rates, and it's not a good situation for sure. Now, I have some more follow-up stuff here from the community. A lot of people agree that the drop rates, the drop rate change is not good. This is from Rothcore, who says this: nothing will kill the game faster than scarce loot drops. And also, this was agreed upon by Deuceman, who says this: I put 87 hours into this game in the past week. Playing after the loot nerf is the first time I notice a lack of enjoyment. So, furthermore, we have here Avalon Emil saying this: post-patch loot, whether it was a bug or not, is no longer enjoyable. So you can see the widespread sentiment here is that people want the loot rate to return to what it was previously. And then also, this was posted by Arcanic, says this: a lesson I think Anthem Bioware could learn from Diablo 3 when it comes to loot: be generous. And he posted this very interesting image here. Right here it says, be generous. Reaper of Souls stopped getting feedback about can't find cool items and started getting feedback of trying to find better version of my cool items. This was you know, from Blizzard here at GDC 2017, talking about their game, you know, Diablo 3. So it looks like they managed to fine-tune their loot system to really drop items that were meaningful all the time. And really, the complaint from the community was, how do I even get a better version of that item? And that's what we need for Anthem. Now, this was a reply to that post. This is very interesting. Ehall says this: Travis Day, the same person in the screenshot, which we saw just then, giving the talk, actually made a post on the subreddit already about some of the issues. It didn't get much traction, but that's not a huge surprise considering the influx of posts to the subreddit, along with being a pretty long post. So Travis Day of Blizzard played Anthem and gave his opinions about the loot system. This is some interesting stuff, and I'm going to read it off to you guys right now. So let's dive in. So this is what he had to say: reward structure issues and ideas. He goes on to say the following: I've been playing Anthem for the last week and really enjoying it myself. However, the game seems to fall into a number of reward system related traps that I wanted to take a moment, to point out and offer some possible solutions to an effort to help make this game, which I'm enjoying, more compelling. So this is really great stuff. He goes on to say this: dead inscription. So he describes the inscriptions as follows: by now I suspect many people have seen items roll with stats that they don't understand. Man icon means it affects everything you do. Cog icon means it only affects the items that it rolled on. Currently, the game allows for items to roll inscriptions that literally cannot affect the item they are on. Example: Venomous Blaze with item-specific physical damage plus weapon percent damage and plus cold damage. He goes on to furthermore saying this: having items roll affixes that are suboptimal is standard practice for this kind of game, but I think there should be a hard distinction made between bad and literally doesn't work. Currently, this causes a considerable amount of confusion for players learning the game, as their initial assumption is to think anything an item rolled will work on the item it rolled on. Since that isn't true, I assume the design intent was to create a larger spectrum of item power based on the rolls. I would argue it comes with too many drawbacks. Keeping the spectrum of item power large could easily be accomplished by simply changing the relative weighting of affixes while restricting them to things that actually work on the item. Alternatively, items could have an affix range. Masterworks could roll 2 to 4 or 3 to 4 properties on creation so that there is still the same amount of item variance, but the affixes that show up continue to still work on whatever they rolled on. So excellent points there for sure. Now, furthermore, he continues here. He says this: risk versus reward. Now, this is really interesting here. He says, this is a pretty common pitfall that a lot of games run into, the games I worked on included. It's always going to be subject to some amount of individual perception about what is easy versus what is hard. At present, it seems that the 3 strongholds have different relative tuning of the final boss encounters: the Tyrant, Temple Scar, and Heart of Rage in terms of overall difficulty. This is something I also noticed, and he says this: the first time I went to fight the Heart of Rage boss, it took 30 minutes for my group to defeat the end boss. Relative to the time it takes to kill the Tyrant, this felt wildly disproportionate. My take was that they didn't have many dungeons, so they wanted them to effectively be tiered in difficulty. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any reward incentive to justify the scaling between the 3 dungeons within a given difficulty setting. Even ignoring that particular case, the difficulty between the Tyrant boss and the Scar boss is vast, based purely on the involved windows and the difference in fighting swarms of spiders versus swarms of Scar enemies. So interesting take there for sure. And then he says this: there are a number of potential solutions on the front, whether it's bringing the dungeons into the same relative difficulty scale or increasing the rewards to match the difficulty, which, the second part there makes a lot of sense to me. It says this: either direction is reasonable depending on the design goals, but at present it's considerably mismatched in both directions. Let me know what you guys would like to see. Would you like to see the dungeons, in the same tier of difficulty, and then you just, keep upping the difficulty as you go along? Honestly, it does make sense that some dungeons would be a little harder than other dungeons. I just don't want players not able to play that dungeon just because it's so insanely difficult. I'm calling them dungeons. I would call them, of course, they're called strongholds. But anyway, moving on here, he goes on to say lack of incentive for random strongholds. Furthermore, he says, I'll put this here since it's directly related to the stronghold issue, and whether or not this is even addressed is determined by the solution to the above stronghold risk versus reward issue. Now, If the intent is that dungeons are tiered, then it isn't something that needs to be addressed. If the intent is that dungeons are comparable in difficulty, then the lack of a bonus or incentive to diversify which dungeon I run is an issue. Players will generally follow the path of least resistance. At present, that means run Tyrant Mines repeatedly, which we did in the stream yesterday. Again, check out my streams. Then he says this also increases the speed at which players will burn out since the game feels shallow and lacks variety. Yeah, so I've been playing a lot of Tyrant Mine again on my streams because, you know, it seems like the rewards are similar between all of the strongholds like Travis was describing here. So I think, personally, I think difficulty should scale some of these rewards and up the drop rate. That's what I always assumed. But if you guys want, you know, the Heart of Rage to be the most difficult and offer the best rewards, let me know. I think that would mean that most players would just be playing one stronghold, which again could be a problem in itself. Now furthermore, he says there is a lot to be said for diversity of combat, environments, and situations. While I personally am enjoying trying to optimize my path through Tyrant Mines, it is certainly making me bored of the somewhat limited content that is available. So you can see how that's an issue. The difficulties between the dungeons, the strongholds, are basically causing players to play only one stronghold, it appears. And it says this simple solve, assuming dungeons are roughly equal in challenge, to add a random stronghold to the available mission queues and attach some kind of luck magic find bonus for doing it. And then he says this player agency targeted farming. This is very interesting stuff right here. He says, personally, I like the idea of leaning into different activities, guaranteeing me different item slots. The only real problem here is that I can't make that choice every time I enter a queue. Skills are covered by dungeons, components have limited coverage based on players' inability to chain queue them, and weapons have no activity directly offering them. That's also something I notice, is that, you know, you're not going to be guaranteed a weapon like a masterwork. A masterwork will drop, but it may be a gear item, maybe skill, or something like that, but it's not going to be a weapon. It would be nice to know that you can perhaps somehow increase the luck for weapon drops specifically, or maybe you can get something that can increase the luck for certain other gear components, if that could be a thing in the game. So I think that would be very cool to attach something to your character in that regard, going into a stronghold or a mission or something like that. Now furthermore, he says this, ultimately for this style of game, I think you want players to have peaks and valleys of challenge where they enter a new tier, feel like they want to find things that help them survive as they continue to expand their knowledge of the AI of creatures, eventually gaining enough stronger gear to where the challenge feels moderate to low, and eventually transition into the next difficulty tier. Going from hard to Grandmaster 1 felt great. I totally agree there on that one. Now I continue to say this, the early power jumps provided by the introduction of Masterworks felt good. Grandmaster 1 went from being, holy crap, hard to this is trivial over the course of Masterworks and Legendary Acquisition. Unfortunately, the transition from Grandmaster 1 to Grandmaster 2 doesn't deliver that experience. Now, I have yet to go into Grandmaster 2. I think I'm going to try it very soon. But, you know, Silver, my buddy Silver, he shot the Legendary. I'm like, dude, you're almost ready for, like, Grandmaster 3. So you could see how there's, like, such a difference in how people are kind of receiving this game. It's so interesting. Because I've played as much as him, and then, you know, again, I've had people in chat that have played over 100 hours, and they're not even receiving legendaries. So there's definitely something going on. Going to investigate it further, so I'm going to be streaming it here shortly. You guys can join me as I do my investigative stuff here. It's going to be definitely interesting. I'm going to be playing on Grandmaster 1. I've been enjoying Grandmaster 1 for sure. It definitely feels like, with my current gear and setup, it feels like hard difficulty, like a proper hard setting, and it is definitely challenging. Face some titans on there. They have been nail-biting fights for sure. You know, sweaty palms and everything. So I've been having a ton of fun with the gameplay, and completing the, you know, There Be Giants quest line was a total blast. So yeah, overall, enjoying the game, but this loot drop issue I think is an issue. And yeah, hopefully Bioware responds and gets to the bottom of it for sure. But guys, thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more updates, and hope to see you guys later. And take it easy. See you next time.